Welcome back to Where Swans Walk. That's a lot better. James says that was an outstanding win against Norwich. However, still a little bit of a worry on the goal-scoring front. But Swansea looks so much better all round. Norton was man of the match and class. And we've got a lot more happier Swans fans joining us last week. Before the international break, they asked for a performance. Did they get it? Well, we're about to find out. Welcome back to Where Swans Walk. It's the most comprehensive and quickest review of all things Swansea on the internet. Welcome. Oh, that little magician called Franco is all pulling the strings, and we'll get into all of that. Welcome back, James, Jimmy and Rich from the international break. We'll check in with you individually first, but Jimmy, we'll start with you if that's all right. What impressed you most about the Norwich result?
I think it was the defensive display for me. Obviously an early goal, and I'm not one to say we need to sit back in all these sort of games. Going up early, you want to score again, but we went into it. We defended really well. Some great tackles. Cabango at the end, especially. Game-saving tackle to stop us drawing that game. But I think, definitely the defensive efforts from the boys was much, much better than what we've seen so far.
Yeah, James, what do you put this improvement down to? Obviously, playing Norwich, they're still a little bit fragile themselves, but was there a system change, formation change, personnel change that worked for you?
I think it's just the players are getting used to playing with one another now. And you can sort of see they're growing in confidence. For example, Omji Sung and Franco are absolutely incredible on Saturday. You can see that Franco is taking like a duck to water to the championship. He just oozes confidence every time he picks the ball up and drives us out. I think it's just familiarity. I think the system remains mainly the same. I think they're just all getting used to what Williams wants and getting familiar with each other's game.
Cheers for that, both of you. Rich, you must have enjoyed that as well.
Well, I will start by saying, we did win. We got the 3 points, but I got to say Norwich were pretty poor. Preston were poor when they came down here. Norwich were pretty poor. They've lost a lot of their good players from last year, and against a different side, I'm sure we wouldn't have got 3 points in that match because I didn't think we played particularly well. I just think we done the job and we got a scruffy win. They all count as 3 points, but there's much more work to be done there, I think.
Yeah, the tweet at the start said about goal scoring threat. Jimmy, we still not solved this issue yet of final third play?
It's hard to tell. I think, obviously Cullen was injured. He came back for the Norwich game, but Vipotnik as well. I think he will be a good player for us up front, but obviously it's just another one of them players who's come from abroad. We need to bring them up to speed. We saw it with Young. He's taken a while, but now you can see he's slowly getting used to the difference. I think a lot of players will struggle with coming from abroad into this league. It's not easy at all. But yeah, I think there's still a worry with it. Cullen's not exactly been a proven goal scorer in this division yet. I don't think he surpassed 10 goals in any of his seasons. And as ever, Vipotnik's very unproven. So I think it can get better, and it probably will, but I think it's definitely still something we need to address.
Okay. Coming up then for the rest of this episode, we're obviously going to look back at the best of social media and get these guys to give their views on it, including the attendance against Norwich. Seems to be drastically down. Why are people staying away from Swansea at this moment in time, and what can be done to get them back? Left backs, we're going to jump on to the next part of our review of the Swansea side, and also be asking this team and you, who's your unsung August player of the month for Swansea, who has not yet had their flowers? Difficult, I know, given how difficult some of the games were in August, but we're going to be asking you nevertheless for your name. Okay, let's have a look at social media then. We've already seen one. Let's have a look at some others. Jamie says, as good as Grimes and Franco were, Cabango has to be the man of the match. He won everything in the air, and that last-ditch tackle, as you've already mentioned, saved the win for sure. Cabango and Lawrence Vigora were superb. Yeah, Cabango, do you think, you've called him out on here before, but is he finding his rhythm now this season?
Yeah, I think he's somewhere back to his best. I think he's very much a confidence player, and you could see that on Saturday. He just did not look like he was going to lose anything. Very solid in the air, very dependable, and that tackle was absolutely inch perfect. I think if he tried to do that 100 times, he'd probably give away a penalty 99 times. It was just one of those. It was just superb. When he's off, a bit of a liability, but then he really shines when he plays to strengths like that. He's incredible.
Rich, another player that was getting a few headlines, although the cameo they did was Pitt Harris. Josh says he thought he was very good when he came on. What was your evaluation of him?
Yeah, the boy's got a bit of potential. Yeah, we haven't really seen loads of him as of yet, but it'd be nice for him to get a few games. He's got a bit of skill, got a bit of pace. It's something we haven't really got abundance of in the team. So, I'd be excited to see what he can produce. He's not one of the players that was apparently bought by Luke Williams. It's a club signing, we've been told. So it'd be interesting to see how much time he gets in the pitch. But then again, we haven't really got loads of options. So it's up to him to really prove that he deserves to be in the side. Give him a go.
Well, it is good, all of you, to be talking about a win at least. I know, in the manner of it might not be the manner of what you wanted, but 3 points on the board. You're not anywhere near the bottom. Are you all? Do you all think you are where you expected to be at this after the start? What are we, 6 games in now, Jimmy? Nodding your head there.
Yeah. I think I said before the season, I put out a tweet saying, what results I get from each game, and the results weren't necessarily where they were, but I did say 7 points. So I think I'm more than happy with the start. I think, we played the 2 losses were, Middlesbrough and West Brom. West Brom top of the league, absolutely flying, and Middlesbrough doing really well as well. So I'm really not too concerned with how we've started. Obviously, it's been a bit shaky, but I think the level of opposition is really, really high that we've played, so I'm quite happy.
Okay. I do want to talk about attendances. There was a number of fans which alluded to the empty seats. They were quite visible actually on the highlights certainly that I watched. Why aren't people coming to watch Swansea this season, James?
It's probably a combination of things. Obviously, times are tough at the moment, but I really do think the main thing is that there's been many years of misactions and inaction at the club, and I think people have finally sort of given up with it. And I think they need to really sort of convince the guys to come back. But I will say this, even though the attendance was clearly lower, the noise that the northeast corner made on Saturday was incredible. So those who really want to be there and really want to support the side are still going, and they'll always be there. I think you're losing people purely because I personally think it's the way that we've been run the last couple of years. We're not exactly the most exciting to watch. We're never really challenging for the top, and we're sort of middling in the sort of middle of the pack. So it's not really an incentive for people to come down. Like I said, the die-hard fans will come there whether we're fighting relegation or whatever. But for some fans, I just don't think there's really any sort of incentive to come there for us.
Rich, you're close to the club. Do the club look at these figures and dwindling attendances and empty seats and are they trying to do something to make the match day experience more fun? Are there offers for kids and so on? Free tickets for the more vulnerable? What's going on in the club? Are they even noticing what's happening with gates?
Yeah, it's a tough one because obviously your season ticket numbers are down, and that's your main base, isn't it? And if you're so many thousand down on that, you've got to make them up somewhere. And when the team's winning, like James says, you get the crowds. If you're not winning, you have to look at something else that's going to draw fans in. Yeah, there'll be times where there'll be promotions on and different things like that. There'll be family events, there'll be certain charitable causes and different things like that. But you can't really pick people off the streets to come in and pay good money unless you're playing the brand of football that is a Swansea way, which has been the thing for a long time. And yes, Luke is starting to pick up now. We're starting to have a bit more identity about this. And hopefully now as the season goes on, the crowds will start coming back. But at the moment, yeah, I think the jury's still out a little bit with a lot of people, especially with the signings.
Okay. There were a couple of tweets about it. Phil says the fans were the 12th man yesterday. Luke Williams' chant during the last 10 minutes was deafening. and help to get the boys over the line. Give me 14,000 that want to be there and get behind the team than an extra 6,000 that don't. And this lad, James, here says, despite there being noticeably fewer fans on the ground yesterday, the Northeast corner was superb in voice. Just goes to show if the lads give us something to get excited about, we will return it in tenfold. So, the fans are noticing it, Jimmy. Do you notice it in the ground that it is loud and it's certainly helping the players get over the line?
I think, yeah, it's obvious. You can tell. I think especially that Norwich game was a lot better than it has been in the last few games. I think everyone was concerned when you see first game, a home game of the season, 14,000. You think, what's happened here? They're normally close to selling out most years, and we come back 14,000. But the first tweet says it's spot on. I'd much rather have 14,000 people who want to get behind the boys than 20,000 people, and you have the extra 6,000 who sit there in silence for the whole game in the family stand. I think it's definitely. You just want your true supporters there to back the boys, because ultimately you've got to make your home ground a fortress, and it's more likely to do that with 14,000 loud fans than 20,000 quiet fans.
Yeah, and yeah, you have been starved of a playoff run or even close to a playoff run, haven't you? So you'd like to think if James could just squeak in even with the slightest faint chance this year, that you would see a couple of more thousand come back.
Yeah, I think you would. And I think that was evident to see on Saturday. So I sit in that northeast corner, and every single time we went forward with papers, people were getting out of their seats. Now, if you can get that every week and, we start to chain a couple of results together, the crowds will come back, like I said. And some people say, that's almost being a fair weather fan. But people want to be entertained. People want to come and watch their side and support it. But ultimately, it's an entertainment sport as well. And, they're not going to come down there to watch you have 75% possession while you're passing it laterally around the back. They want to see you getting forward and threatening teams. And if we can perform like that every game, I have every faith they'll come back.
Okay. All right. I threw this one in there as well. This was from a Derby fan. Despite not scoring yet, Jerry Yates has played a pivotal role in Derby's success so far this season. Sorry. I had to throw that in there just for you, James. Okay, let's jump forward then. Coventry City next. Now, explain to me why you've had Coventry City's number for so many years. I think we looked at the other day, 1981, we think, the last time that Coventry actually beat Swansea in a league game. Richard, what'd you put this down to, where you have this weird hold over a side?
Oh, every time I bring up a stat like that, especially in the home games, it ends. I remember at Watford last year, I told all the press, it's been so long since whatever. Even their guys threw it at me in the end, when we lost. So it means nothing really, does it? But at the end of the day, we've got a remarkable run of draws against them, and they've all been entertaining games. And Coventry in the last few years have been a really good side. They lost a couple of players, brought a few good ones in. But this year, it seems to be that all the games we played have been really tight. I don't think there'll be as many runaway teams like there were last year by any means. I think it's, if you can manage to win your home games and pick up the odd point away, I think you're going to be having a good chance of reaching a playoff spot. And, maybe we'll do better than we think. You never know.
Okay. Yeah, last 4 games have finished in a draw. I think 1-1, 1-1. Last 3, I think. Jimmy, any personnel changes need to take place? I mean, this is arguably, you've been to Borough, so potentially you've had a tough away trip already, but do you need to make any changes on the road for this one?
I think you stick with a team that beat Norwich. I'd very unlikely see any reason to change a team that won a game. We played well, obviously maybe not as well as we can, but it was enough to beat a team as good as Norwich, who have some really good players. And I think Coventry have had probably a poorer start to the season than many expected. So I think, if we can go there and take another 3 points or even a point off them, I'd be more than happy with the point away from home. We've had a really, really tough start to the season, I think. So I think if we can just get through this run with as many points as possible, we then enter a bit of a period of time where we can have 3, 4, 5 games where we actually look like we should be winning most of them. But yeah, 100% I'd take a point on the road.
All right, brilliant. If you haven't yet done so, please do subscribe to the channel. This Swansea content is also across Spotify and has been for the last couple of weeks, so you can listen to the 20 minutes that we do every single week on Swansea. We know there's hours and hours of other content you can listen to, but how do you want to listen to an hour? We listen for 20 minutes when we do all the content in the same week. What else is going on at the club this week, James, Rich and Jimmy? Any other discussion points that we need to look at?
I'd probably say the contract situation with Harry Darling is probably a good one to start with. He's recently come out today and said that there's been no discussion at all over extending his deal, which I find absolutely baffling because he is such an integral player for us. The fact that conversations haven't started at all is quite concerning. And, well, I've read this script before and I don't like the ending.
James, you pointed to mismanagement upstairs before. Does this just add to your anxieties yet again of people not jumping into the simple conversations sooner than they do?
Absolutely. I just think it comes down to being proactive. We've seen this play out with Ryan Manning. We've seen it play out with Joel Attabode. Yeah, he wasn't everyone's cup of tea, but he was a solid championship player. And I just feel that this is going to happen again. And if you look at Harry Darling, there's hardly anyone as consistent out there as him who can, do the old school defending and play out from the back. We lose him. I do fear for us. And again, it just comes down to having that conversation early. Far too often now we've let players go into their last 12 months and we find ourselves in a sort of an awkward situation then.
Okay. All right. We'll keep our eyes peeled on that one. Thanks, James. Rich, any response to that? Do you think that it's a valid point?
Yeah, I see where he's coming from. I know that the club don't offer contracts at this stage. They will not be looking anywhere near offering any contracts. Harry spoke on Saturday night and after the game, and he mentioned about it won't be on the cards yet. It'll be discussed in the next few months. But it's not the way it should be done. I don't agree with it, but it's the club policy, and we all don't know what goes on behind the scenes, So he wants to be there. He's committed. They mentioned about Bristol City. He had no interest in leaving, so that's all we can go on, really, I suppose. But you should be offering players long-term contracts because it just gives more value at the end of the day. If the club comes in, you're going to get some money back, and that's what we need,
Absolutely. Okay, we've already looked at goalkeepers and central defenders, so next on our list is left backs. Let's take a look at those there. Now, according to transfermarket.com, you have a wealth of left backs. I know not all of these are technically left backs, maybe more left-sided players, but Jimmy, who's the best left back for Swansea?
It's got to be Josh Tymon, but I think by quite a long distance on that list. I think Pedersen played most of his time as centre-half. DeJohan's not really done anything, and the other three definitely and basically never play left-back. So I think Tymon by quite a clear different distance, although Norton did play quite well there against Norwich. But again, he's not a left-back, so I think it's got to be Tymon.
This is a question for all of you. Is this an area that you think you are relatively strong in comparison to other areas?
No, I wouldn't think so. They square pegs in round holes again, isn't it?
As good as Cal Norton is, he's a machine. Cal Norton will run all day. he's a guy who probably goes in the gym in the morning and still there in the evening. But he can only have so much ability. He's getting on a bit now, and he fills the gaps. But we do need to strengthen on those wide areas in defence. As simple as that. If you get injury, you've had him.
Okay, one for January or one for summer then, this one?
Summer, I think.
I
think we've got too many more positions in much more higher priority than left back. We've got 3-4 players there who can play that position. As much as maybe the quality isn't necessarily there, we have the depth. It's one of the few positions on the pitch we actually have depth in the squad. So I think it's probably more of a summer issue compared to other areas like the forward attacking areas where we need a lot more help, probably a lot quicker.
Okay. All right then. Lastly on our list then is the August Player of the Month that's been unsung for you. I know this might be quite a difficult question for you to answer, but let's see how we do. Put yours in the comments below. James, we'll start with you. Anyone deserves a shout out that hasn't had it?
Yeah, I think Lawrence Vigouroux, for the little that he's had to do, he's been so good. I mean, I'd love to have Carl Rushworth back, but Lawrence Vigouroux has been fantastic for us. His distribution, he's solid in the goal, he commands his penalty area. And yeah, I do think perhaps in some of the games, particularly West Brom, if we didn't have him there, it could have been a lot worse. So he's my pick for August.
Okay, good shout. Rich?
Yeah, I have to agree. Having settled back four, which looks like he's been there for a while. With the four guys in front of him, they look solid as anything. Franco's been the best player by a country mile, but if you were going for someone else, I think it'd have to be Lawrence.
Okay, and Jimmy?
Yeah, I agree. I think if you're going to go a bit different, I'd say maybe not necessarily unsung, especially after Norwich, but Cabango has been particularly solid, maybe after a shaky first game, but ever since then, he's been really, really important to our defensive schemes. We've only conceded 3 times in the opening few games. So I think he's been a massive part of that. I think as well, Vigouroux has been unbelievable for us since he's come in.
Okay. All right. All 3 great shouts. Thank you very much, you 3. Enjoy your trip to Coventry. When we come back then next week, we'll also talk about right backs and get your views on all of that. And we'll also be asking you what's the best right back that you've ever seen put on a Swansea shirt. So we'll look forward to that. And we'll also review the Coventry game as well. Thank you very much for joining us on Where Swans Walk. Please do subscribe if you haven't done already. And we'll see you next week.